This is the I'm Giving Notice podcast, episode 6.
This is the I'm Giving Notice podcast, where you get to take control of life's big three and have the career, relationships, and health that you've always dreamed of. Now, get ready to say, I'm Giving Notice, with your host, Mace Haroff.
Well, hello, everybody. This is Mace Haroff on the I'm Giving Notice podcast. My guest today is Dr. Paula Bloom. Dr. Bloom is a practicing clinical psychologist. She is an author, speaker, and frequent on-air CNN contributor. She is called on by the media to offer perspective on a wide range of events and topics, including national tragedies, international events, and mental health topics such as happiness, resilience, and relationships. Some of the topics we talk about right here on I'm Giving Notice. Dr. Bloom is the co-author of the book, Why Does He Do That? Why Does She Do That? Two relationship experts reveal the naked truth about dating in the 21st century. She has been a contributor to PBS's This Emotional Life and the Huffington Post, and has been featured in Glamour, Cosmopolitan, Women's Day, and Men's Health. I met Paula Bloom when we were both speaking at a TEDx event in Boca Raton. Her talk is awesome. I'm going to have a link to it on the show notes. And one thing I realized when I met Dr. Bloom is you immediately shattered the stereotype I had in my mind for clinical psychologists. In other words, you are fun, you're engaging, and most importantly to me, you're very funny. I didn't think of people who studied Freud as being funny.
Hi, it's nice to be here.
All right. Paula, I'm Giving Notice is about job or career happiness, beneficial relationships, and optimizing health. And you have expertise in many areas. I want to jump right to the relationship area and ask you about something that you discuss in your book. And one question that I've always wanted to know the answer to, and this is a big one, and you know a lot of the guys out here want to know the answer too. Why does it seem like women don't want to have sex as much as men do?
Well, Mace, you just nailed it. The critical question is seem. Why does it seem that women don't want to have sex as much as men do? So here's something that we need to realize. We're just going to jump right in. Women, the way that women see themselves, okay, the way their relationship with their mind, with their spirit, with their body, has a huge impact on their ability to desire sex. When, men, it's sort of a reflexive thing, right? You kind of touch somewhere, they get aroused. Most men aren't really thinking a lot about the size of their butt or thighs when it comes to sex, is my guess. What do you think, Mace? It's not usually what's on the guy's mind. Would you agree?
I would agree. You know, when it comes to sex, we're in the moment. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, you're kind of in your body, right? And a lot of times women are in their head. And so what ends up happening is women often, because of society, because of a lot of things, tend to be feeling much more self-conscious, especially younger women. Older women who are more comfortable with who they are, things can be kind of different. But younger women, a lot of it is about being in their head. Am I good enough? Am I strong enough? Am I pretty enough? How does my body look? How do I smell? All of these kinds of things that men often don't realize. Women are thinking you're looking at a particular part of their body and judging, and you're like, oh, no, that's not what I'm looking at all. I'm here. I'm ready to go. So again, a lot of it has to do with mental kinds of issues for women. Men, it's just what's wonderful about being a man is that there is a certain simplicity when it comes to sex. Not with relationships necessarily, not with self-esteem, but when it comes to sex.
If I understand what you're saying that men are very simple when it comes to sex and women are more complex, whereas men are really just focusing on the sex at that moment. For a woman, there's a lot more going on in her mind.
Yes, absolutely. Yep. What happens is that, not that men aren't, of course men think. I don't want to in any way suggest that men aren't thinking. And there are times when men are in their head and that they're big head. And that sometimes that can cause an issue when men are having insecurity or performance issues or they're worrying. That could have an effect on their enjoyment and in their functioning. So it's not like men never experience this kind of thing where they're spending time overthinking things. But for women, a lot of it has to do with feeling a sense of connection with your partner before you have sex, versus a lot of times men have sex in order to feel a connection. So a lot of the kinds of things where when a woman is feeling good about who she is, when she's feeling confident in her body, in her mind, in her spirit, she's much more likely to feel comfortable being in the vulnerable position of being in a position to have sex. But when a woman is feeling not good enough, that has a major impact on most women, not all women, but on most women's abilities to really, really want to be in the position of being vulnerable and have sex.
So there's like a disconnect here for men, because as a man, I'll speak for myself, for example, I could not understand how a woman, in the heat of the moment, when I find a woman just incredibly attractive and desirable, and all I could think about is wanting her, and she can't do anything wrong. She looks perfect. She smells perfect. Everything is perfect in that moment. And I guess this is where men are different about sex. In that moment, the sex becomes the sole thing happening in the moment. That's it. There's nothing else. And the woman being the object, that, if I may say, being the object of that sexual desire, she's perfect. So oftentimes a man can't understand, why does she have all these insecurities when she is all that I want? And again, I'll admit that what I'm talking about is devoid of a lot of the emotional things you just described. Talk about that.
The way that you view someone is not how they view themselves. You, the man, you're not the only messenger of a woman's sense of self that she's getting. She's getting messages from all over. She's getting messages from the media. She's getting messages from all kinds from the way she grew up, from society. I mean, you are not the only one. Your perspective on her is not the only one that she has on herself, right?
Right.
It's hard, though. I mean, I understand that. I hear this from men all the time. It is baffling to them, absolutely baffling, how this creature, this woman who they think is amazing, how is it possible that she doesn't see herself that way? So the way that we get to know who we are as women, as people, is that we have these mirrors around us that reflect back to us. When you're a child, when you're a month old and you smile and your mother smiles back at you, it's its natural instinct to mirror those around us. Well, women, a lot of times, we don't have these accurate mirrors in society around us. We often have these funhouse mirrors, very distorted, that are not accurate views of who we are, and we take those messages in. Think about the fashion industry and the airbrushing and the way that women look. And women, we have this idea that somehow that's how we're supposed to look, like it's some sort of mirror, even if it's not that those models even look the way that they look. So some of that is physical, and then some of it is also a kind of multitasking that women do, where you're playing all these roles. It's not always so easy to shift from some kid spit up on you to now I'm going to be all like romantic and sexy. The shift doesn't happen quickly a lot of times for women.
Yeah, and a man can just throw a switch.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing, actually. Yeah, and again, we're making generalizations about gender,
Sure.
But these are just some of the things that are sort of typical in the genders. Not everybody's that way. But yeah, I mean, this sort of on-off versus much slower kind of rev-up kind of thing that can happen for women. And this is actually one of the issues sexually, too, Mace, is that how crass can we be on your podcast, Mace?
Let's give it a shot, Paula, and we'll see what happens.
We can always add it, right?
Right.
So it's because the beauty of podcasts. So one of the things that we notice is that women tend to respond better to the slow ramp up. And I remember during your TED Talk, you talked about this with sales and sex, right, Maeve?
Right.
About how the kind of, you don't go right for the kill, the sort of beating around the bush, if you will. Excuse me. And so this idea of a lot of times men are, the shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line. And for women, the more likely way to get from point A to point B is not a straight line, right? You have to kind of move around and spiral around. And so that's another difference that happens. And I see this a lot. I work a lot with young women who they don't realize, because men are able to complete sex, are able to complete that much more quickly. They think that the women think there's something wrong with them because their sexual response is much slower, which is just physiologically how we're designed. Just
right.
Because he gets there faster doesn't mean we're slow, right? It just means he gets there faster, and there needs to be more of a collaboration about the process. But men, a lot of times women don't have the patience. They're like, this is going to take so long, I might as well not even do it. And when there's more communication, that can be a completely different ballgame.
Well, it's funny you mention that. I remember watching an interview with Jenny McCarthy. It was on one of the morning shows. They were talking about sex, and someone asked her about the topic of orgasms. They say, don't you like orgasms? And she said, yes, I enjoy orgasms like anybody else does. But I got to be honest with you. Sometimes trying to have an orgasm is just a lot of work.
Oh my God, who has that kind of time a lot of times? It's just like, who has that kind of time? You're busy, you're a mother, you're working, like, really? Do I have that kind of time?
But a guy can't understand that. A guy can't understand that because, it's easy. It's easy. I mean,
so easy. Oh. You're right, Mace. I mean, it is, oh gosh, it's just a hard thing to describe. And again, I work a lot with younger women who, a woman in her 40s and 50s so understands a lot of this, and that's why I think makes them so much sexier in many ways, is that they're like, yep, this is who I am, this is what I need, they can articulate it. They're not feeling guilty about the fact that it's taking them longer, quote unquote. But yeah, who's got that kind of time, man? We're busy. Yeah, there's Facebook to check. Yeah, I hear you.
So there is nothing that you or I can say that is going to make the average male want sex less. So here's the question. Is there anything that a guy can do to make his woman want sex more often?
So here's the dilemma. Of course, we want this all to happen very organically, but yes, I'll say a few things. The first thing is recognize that the kind of sex doesn't start in the bedroom. It starts the whole day. The way that you're treating her during the day, the way that you're making her feel valued and appreciated and connected. I mean, my husband, boy, when he is emptying that dishwasher, whoo, gosh, that is like so attractive.
That is hot.
When he's doing things to make just my life easier. I mean, we're partners. We have 2 children. We kind of have, we have good division of labor in the household. It's not like doing the dishwasher is my job and not his. But whatever he can do, whatever he does to just show that he's present, that he values me, is wonderful. One of the things that happens with women is that, I hear this complaint from women a lot, is, I want to be affectionate with my guy, but every time he goes to touch me, he immediately wants it to turn into sex. And so a lot of times, if you can do things like touch her not in the bedroom so that she's not thinking, oh, great, he's only touching me because he wants to get laid, it can be a very, very good thing. And you create this environment. It's not just in the bedroom. A lot of it has to do with where are you in your relationship? Is she feeling valued? Is she feeling seen? Being invisible is a very big trigger for women. For people in general, I would say for women probably even a little more. Not being acknowledged, not being seen. If you're having this experience as the whole day goes on, then ultimately, organically, it can lead into something in the bedroom. But if you expect to start seeing her for the first time when you want her to turn over and have sex, that's not a good way to get things started.
Paula, would it be fair to say that if the man is thinking about having a romantic evening, that the foreplay starts in the morning?
At least. It's not the day before. It's not. Yeah, it really does. It really does. Because, again, if you think about it, we have this, we're complex beings. And for women especially, this idea of what you think about yourself, how you feel about yourself, the kinds of actions you've been taking, these things are all very much related. And so the better you're feeling about who you are, and listen, Mace, it is no one else's job to make us feel good about ourselves. I understand that. Nobody can make you happy. Nobody can give you self-esteem. But what you can do is create the conditions, the optimal conditions where that woman will be able to feel better, feel relaxed. Because, having sex can put you in a very vulnerable position. You need to feel safe. If you feel like the person is not getting you, not hearing you, not helping you, why would you want to put your guard down and feel safe with that person?
No, I understand. It makes perfect sense. And I'm listening.
Yeah.
I hope the other men out there are listening.
Yeah.
Because we all enjoy sex. We all want more sex. But we also want to please the woman that we love or care about. So I'm paying attention, Paul. I'm paying attention.
Good, Mace. I'm glad.
I want to shift gears and ask another question. Something else you talked about in the book. And I meet so many women who seem to be attractive to the quote unquote bad boys. And even after, they'll meet a bad boy, they'll have a relationship with him, it doesn't work out well, they go to the same bad boy again and again and again. And all of us nice boys, we can't understand why they're attracted to the bad boys. Can you answer that?
Yeah. Hey, don't act like you don't understand. A lot of men, we women who are nice women, don't understand why men like women who aren't very nice to them. FYI, there's a whole book about it. Why men love bitches. So it goes both ways. But as far as women liking bad boys, I think that there's a lot of possibilities. One is that some women have this desire to fix things, right? They want to fix things. They want a project. And so there's this vision of, yeah, he's like this now, but I can change him. I'll be the one to tame him, right?
Right.
Now, I really believe that your perception of people actually initially tends to be more accurate than as you get to know them better. So, because then you don't have to justify things. You're just noticing things without judgment, like, oh, yeah, and Maya Angelou, rest in peace, she used to say, if somebody tells you who they are, believe them. So the way someone is early on often is the most accurate. So often, if somebody's like that, chances are you're not going to be the one who completely changes them. It just doesn't work that way, and it's not a great way to start a relationship. One of the things also that happens is that we all have this hypothesis, if you remember from science, this hypothesis for how we see ourselves. And we look for data to support it. So if you are somebody who grew up thinking that you're not worth a lot, that somehow you don't deserve to be loved, if that's sort of the way that you were shaped and the messages you got maybe when you were younger, excuse me, one of the things that happens is that you will look for relationships that will support that belief about yourself. So a lot of times if you don't feel good enough, you will be around people who say to you, yeah, you're not good enough. And so you might be with somebody who is not going to treat you well. Even though it's painful, we like to have our thoughts about ourselves be supported, even if it's negative. Do you see what I'm saying, Mace?
Sure.
It's a really incredible dynamic. There's a sense of excitement a lot of times with bad boys. There's a sense of, ooh, this is so interesting. If you ask women what they like, they'll say, I want someone who's nice and funny. But then you look sometimes at the men that they're dating and you're like, I don't get it. I don't get it. A lot of times nice feels boring, which is unfortunate because if you talk to women maybe who were married once or were in a bad relationship early on and then they meet the nice guy and that's who they marry, they say, yeah, you know what, boring is just fine with me. But it's this sense of exhilaration because the body doesn't know the difference between excitement that's positive a lot of times and excitement that's just, negative. I mean, you ride a roller coaster, it can be exhilarating. It can also make you throw up,
In the dating world, men often hear the advice, don't pay too much attention. If there's a woman you want to go out with or you want to inspire her to be interested in you, you got to be a little standoffish. Don't shower her with too much attention. Women don't like to be showered with too much attention. Is that true?
I think that's a tough one. There's different research on different areas of that. I am not a fan of the rules. I am not a fan of a lot of kind of artificially ignoring people or doing things like that are against what you really want to do. I think that coming on very, very strong can push somebody away, but it doesn't mean that you should completely ignore them and pretend like they don't exist. I think that women in general want to feel heard, want to feel seen, and in general, I think it's better to communicate and say, hey, I had a great time, instead of this artificial, let me wait 5.3 days before I ever call her back kind of thing.
Sure. Well, let's be fair here. Let's be balanced. I want to ask you about some of the questions that women have when it comes to men.
Sure.
I mean, generally, I see us, the males, as we're pretty perfect. We don't have many problems. But again, if women have a perception that there's something about us that should be changed, I think we should explore that. So,
you're such a giver, May.
I am, Paula, and I hope our listeners know I'm only kidding. They're saying, gosh, he's a misogynist. I'm not listening to this anymore.
No, he's not a misogynist. I've met your wife. You are not a misogynist. That would not fly. Absolutely not.
Thank you, Paula. Women often find men to be controlling. I'm not really even sure what that word means when a woman says that. Do you mean I'm driving the car, I'm controlling the car? What is a woman's perception of a man who is controlling, and what causes it?
So the perception is you're telling me what to wear, you're telling me what to do, you're telling me where to be, you're telling me all of these things. It's not okay who I am. You're telling me who I can talk to. When I think of controlling and I think of women talking about controlling, that's what I'm thinking of. Listen, this is on a spectrum. There are people who are controlling the kind of abusive relationships, what you wear, who you can hang out with, all of that. What underlies most kinds of controlling behavior, honestly, is fear. Fear is what's underneath all of that kind of thing. Fear that the person's going to get away, fear that I'm not going to get what I want, fear that I'm not good enough. And so a lot of times in our lives, when we feel powerless, when we feel vulnerable, when we feel scared, we try to control others. And so when it comes to that, I mean, men, listen, I think that is a big generalization. There are so many men who aren't like that. Those are the extreme cases that get media attention, and those are the ones that women will talk about. But I would say that in general, that is not necessarily the case, that men as a personality, as part of their gender, are controlling. What I will say, though, is that when you feel connected in a relationship, when you've allowed yourself to really be seen, and I'm not talking about the pathological controlling of a domestic violence situation, but just a more general garden variety thing, when you're vulnerable, when you really like someone, when you have really let them know who you are, that can be very scary. And so sometimes the sense of wanting to control things will emerge out of a trying to create order out of something that feels a little chaotic and scary to you inside your emotion.
Is someone who's controlling, are they more likely to be controlling early in the relationship versus later on when the relationship has evolved and matured a bit?
It really depends. There are people who don't start that way because they know that if they were over-controlling initially, you wouldn't stay with them. So there are those personalities and people who, they're so sweet and kind and giving and loving and open, and then they're smart enough to know that if they start telling you what to wear on date 3, you're going to be like, out of here. When that behavior, though, starts happening in a more slow, subtle, gradual way, a lot of times you don't notice it. The woman won't notice it. And so then they find themselves 2 years in saying, what the heck happened, you know? Other times, people might be a little more insecure at the beginning once they put a ring on it or feel like this is really going to happen, we're living together, there can be a bit of a sense of relief. But the pathological controlling stuff often does not start immediately because early on, the woman would run the other way. It'll happen gradually and she won't even notice it's happening sometimes.
Very interesting. I found out a lot of times anytime I would, back in my dating days, gosh, it was so long ago, when I would, usually by the third date, the woman was making suggestions on how I should dress. And, comments. Yeah. Well, my wife now, CJ. CJ's an artist, so she has this incredible sense of color. She didn't wait till the third date. It was the first date. It was. Do you normally wear that shirt with those pants?
Oh God! I should hang out with her. Yeah, I think I waited till like the third date to say, wow, yeah, that's an interesting choice. Are you going out in that? Yeah. Uh-huh.
No, I got to tell you this, Paul, because it's funny. She said, you know what? I have a shirt in my car that would look really good with those pants. She said, it's up to you, but it's a really cool. Why don't you just try it? She said, just try it on for me. Just put it on.
Hey, we ordered the creme brulee. It's going to take a minute. Let's just go get it from the car.
Listen, I tried on the shirt, and here we are 28 years later. We're still together. So I guess it must make, I never thought about it before. It was the shirt. It must have been the shirt.
I'm sure it was.
I want to shift gears again because I want to get to the career aspect of I'm Giving Notice. And I'm sure in your clinical practice, you meet patients who hate their jobs. They're just satisfied with the career. When someone's having a job issue, as a clinical psychologist, what's your first approach?
So my first approach is a lot of times, okay, let's take a step back. People are animals, okay? And we've all heard of the fight or flight reaction that can happen, right? When an animal feels like they're under attack, what happens? They either want to fight or they want to run, and it changes your body and your adrenaline gets going. Just think about that sense of fear that can then make you want to run or make you want to fight. It happens in your body. Your heart rate starts racing and your pupils dilate and all of these kinds of things. They're physical reactions. Now, when someone hates their job, and I deal with this a lot in my practice, it's like the first thing that they need to be reminded is that they are not trapped. You may feel trapped because you think, well, of course I'm trapped. I have this kind of money that I'm making and all of these things. But ultimately, even if it meant living on the street, you are not trapped in your job. And so that is a powerful thing. It may be not ideal to leave. It may make your life very difficult to leave. I'm not telling people to leave. But it helps you to gain clarity and to calm down when you realize ultimately, most of the time, maybe there's some situations if you're working in the prison, as a prisoner, not as a guard, you aren't trapped. And so reminding yourself that I'm here, there are reasons that I'm here, and breathing just right there makes it easier to start a dialogue about what to do differently. But that feeling, that fear, and I know you can relate to that, Mace, right? That
Absolutely.
Of, I am trapped, my back is in a corner, there's not a darn thing that I can do. That is a powerful, powerful thing that puts us in a very primitive reptilian brain mode, which then narrows our field of vision. It makes it very hard to solve problems when you're in that place, in that mindset.
The feeling of being trapped is because people feel like they don't have any options. I don't have the skills to do anything else. I've been trained to do this one job. I've been doing it all my life. If I quit this job, I'm just going to go somewhere else and do the same thing. I'm going to be miserable there, so I may as well be miserable here. How do you open people's eyes to possible options?
So the way to open their eyes is that it's exactly what you're talking about. That whole dialogue that's happening in someone's head, you need to help them create enough distance between themselves and their thoughts. And to say to people, one of the biggest things I say to people is, you can't believe everything you think. Just because you think you don't have other options doesn't make it true. Just because you think there's nothing else you can do doesn't make it true. The minute you start, one of the worst things you can do, one of my friends always says, your brain is like a bad neighborhood at night. You want to get in and out as quickly as possible and spend no time in there alone, because you have all of these thoughts that are just generated automatically, but just because you think something doesn't make it so. Feelings are not facts. And so that's where I start with my clients, is to help them distinguish a thought, a fear, from the reality. And the only way to do that is to create space so that you can watch your thoughts but not necessarily believe them.
When you talk about watching your thoughts,
yeah,
how do you do that? I mean, how do you separate yourself from your feelings to be able to? It's easy to do that for somebody else. We can look at someone else and go, yeah, man, look at that guy. He's got it all. He's strong. He's powerful. He's got a master's degree, a doctorate. He's 6'2". He can do it. He's got it all. We're not able to see ourselves empirically.
That's right. And so this is why when people talk about the importance of your physical health on your emotional health, things that you can do, and the power of, people throw around the word mindfulness a lot these days, and meditation has been around not just these days, for thousands of years. This is why meditation and mindfulness change people's lives, because this is what mindfulness does. Mindfulness is the act of being completely engaged and present in the moment. And so, for example, I'll give you an example. When you're feeling all those thoughts going all over the place, you're back to this roller coaster metaphor. I use this metaphor a lot. You're kind of riding this roller coaster. When you train your brain, when you learn meditation, where what's happening is we cannot, believe it or not, Mace, we talk about positive thinking, we actually cannot control our thoughts. What we can control and learn to train is our attention, which thoughts we put our attention on. Your mind is a magnifying glass, and whatever you focus on will get bigger. And so the more that you can train yourself to be present, to be grounded, the more you can train yourself to where you want to focus your attention, the more that you'll be able to decide and look at yourself the way that an external observer can look at somebody else. You'll be able to look at yourself with objectivity. You'll be able to look at your thoughts with curiosity. Curiosity is the thing that saves you. Because one thing that happens is that you start having these thoughts, oh my God, I hate my job, I'm never going to find anything else, oh, I shouldn't think that way, I don't have any options, I've got to feed my family, blah, 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 blah. If you created enough space between you and those thoughts and you said, yep, almost like they were just clouds, there's that thought telling me I can never leave, I'm just going to let that thought float by, I'm the observer of the thought, it will change your life. Taking up a meditation practice, and oh, by the way, anytime I bring this up to someone, they tell me I've tried it, I suck at it, everybody sucks at it, so don't think you're the only one. Oh, I can't sit, my mind wanders. Well, that's the whole point, is to learn how to bring your attention back. That's the whole point of meditation. Please give it a shot, even if you think you suck at it. I suck at it, I've been doing it for 20 years, I still try, and it's very helpful, even though I'm not great at it.
It makes a difference in your life. I just wanted to clarify that because it's something that a lot of people talk, I'd like to try meditating, but I don't think I could do it. So
That's right.
So you sucked at it for 20 years, but you do it and you benefit from it.
Yeah, I'm crazy. You should see how crazy I am. You know how crazy I am. I'd be even crazier if I wasn't doing it. No, I mean, what it really does is it trains you. It teaches you. Our mind is like an untrained puppy. It really is. It just needs some training. There's nothing wrong with what your mind does. You just have to help train it. And the more that you do things and you stay engaged and present in the moment, the better. We were talking about other things, too, is that physical health is really critical because exercise, moving your body, getting your heart rate up, all these things change your neurochemistry, which your thoughts are neurochemical processes. So the more that you can be healthy in your body, the more that you will be healthier in your mind and have the ability to see a larger perspective on things.
And if you're healthier in your mind and healthier in your body, you're going to have better relationships, and hopefully you'll have better control over your job. I saw a segment where you were being interviewed. Let me just repeat the quote. It says, "Knowing who you are makes it easier for you to ask for what you need, which makes it easier to actually have a likelihood of getting it." And you make the point, say, when someone asks you, for example, what you want for your birthday, if you say nothing, that's probably what you're going to get. So I'm looking at this whole continuum that you just described. First of all, knowing who you are makes it easier to ask for what you need.
Yep.
How do we do that?
Know who we are? You're asking about how do we get to know who we are?
Yes.
Yeah, well, how do we get to know who we are? We have to spend time with ourselves, and that's where getting present, that's where slowing down, getting present helps you learn who you are. Remember what I was saying earlier is that we get to know ourselves through the mirrors that society presents to us, but a lot of those mirrors are not very accurate. They're funhouse mirrors. They distort. So being able to spend some time with yourself, it makes a very big difference. And recognizing I may not be who I think I am, and that's okay. I need to spend some time getting to know myself, getting to know who I am, what I like, what I love, those kinds of things. There needs to be some degree of intentionality about it and value. See, there are a lot of people who think that getting to know who you are, that's some sort of woo-woo, like frivolous, like, you know what, that's for other people who have time to sit on a lotus flower. I've got a job to do. Right? I've got a job to do. I'm sorry, I don't have time to drink green tea and be on a lotus flower. And I'm not talking about being some, yogi somewhere. You can do this anywhere, in the corporate world, anywhere. Spending time getting to know who you really are, listening to what you're thinking, listening to what you're feeling, spending some time reflecting goes a very, very long way. But here's the issue, Mace. I know we need to wrap up, but here's the main issue. A lot of times, people have a lot of awareness, but they can't figure out, why is it that this is the awareness I have? I know what I do. I know who I am. I know why I do it, yet I can't change my behavior, right? There's this big gap between what you know and what you do. My feeling is that there's a midway point. The difference between the reason why a lot of people can't take what they know and change their behavior is because they haven't gotten to the midpoint, which is acceptance. Acceptance is the midway between awareness and action. Acceptance of who you are. This is who I am and I don't like it. Well, I understand that, but it's okay to be acceptance. You don't have to approve of who you are, but you need to accept who you are and recognize what are the things about myself that I really can't change, and what are the things about myself that I can. But people are scared of accepting who they are because they think that means they've resigned themselves to never growing. Accepting who you are does not mean that you're never going to change. It just takes away all the resistance and all the energy that we put in to not allowing ourselves to unfold who we are.
Wow. And what a powerful way to end this segment. Dr. Paula Bloom, anyone who would like to find out more about you, where should they go?
They can go to paulabloom.com, Paula Bloom like a flower.com.
And I will have that on the show notes along with a link to Dr. Bloom's book. Dr. Paula Bloom, and I will also put a link to your TED Talk, which is
thank you, Liz.
very, very funny, very relevant, and very, very true. And just to give a little insight, what we're going to find out, this is a terrible thing to say after someone, this is a terrible thing to say after just interviewing someone. But if you watch Dr. Bloom's TED Talk, you're going to find out that she's a little bit of a liar.
Totally. Absolutely. First line of my talk. Hi, I'm Paula Bloom, and I'm a liar. Yep.
Awesome. Paula, thank you so much for being with me.
Thank you so much. This was great.
And I think we're going to have to do this again, too. I mean, there is so much that we could talk about. This is just the tip of the iceberg, but very, very cool. Dr. Paula Bloom out of Atlanta, Georgia, thanks for being a guest on the I'm Giving Notice podcast. And I will talk to everyone again here soon.
This has been the I'm Giving Notice podcast with Mace Haroff. For show notes and more information about how you can take control of life's big three, please visit www.imgivingnotice.com.